Are you tired of being awesome alone? Well, so are Tyra and I. So we have Manny Faces, because hip-hop will save America. Let's be awesome.
Come on.
But this isn't hip-hop.
Oh, yeah, we're back again. New night, new time, Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And just nice schedule shift. And to celebrate the newness, we have our new friend, Manny Faces, on.
Hey, what's up, friends? Actually, I do appreciate you scheduling the show around the NBA Eastern Conference Finals just for me. I do appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm a Knicks fan. There's no way I'd be on the show if it was Wednesdays. So I do appreciate you for doing that.
Your agent sent your rider over. We understand. We got you.
I paid extra for it. I know. We wanted to make sure.
You know, we're that kind of people here.
It's just accommodating and compassionate. I like it.
Well, at least I am.
Hey, Valencia.
Hey, Valencia.
Valencia's our favorite.
And Andrew Wang says facts about what you need. So, quick backstory. Tyra and I worked together with Mark Deal to put on Pod Jam ATL this year. And we put out the shout outs into each of our groups of people to come in, and probably had a good dozen people apply for 3 spots that we had. And looking at Manny's stuff, it was instant. We're like, yeah, definitely Manny's got to be in. And then to top it off, because I'm going to let you tell the backstory of this in a minute, but to top it off, he comes in, he kills it. Brings in a hip hop artist. He's fed me, because I'm running the sound and stuff today. He's fed me like intro music and all this stuff, just top class, and it just killed. The whole place was standing up, cheering, singing.
Awesome.
It was a blast. And then we found out it is actually your first rodeo.
Well,
yeah,
and
that scenario, and that's configuration. Absolutely, yeah.
So what that means is that was your first like live show of what you do.
Like an in studio, like in front of a studio audience, as they used to say, right? Like,
yeah,
this was shot live in front of a studio audience.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Tyra, I know you sat and watched and made notes and observed. What was your takeaways from that day?
That I think there's a lot to be said for doing something live, and there's a connection that happens when you're with people, and that you can take that and extend it to a live audience that's online as well. But there's just something about shaking somebody's hand. There's just something about hearing, like the gentleman who you were with, who was an educator, and him closing you out with a rap, freestyling was amazing, and to be a part of that was excellent. And I got exposed to podcasts that I hadn't seen before, and I think that's the other great thing about this is it opens up an arena to a different set of audiences that you don't get. So I want to do it again. I love the whole thing about being live.
Yeah. So Manny, what was your takeaway from that day?
I mean, it was my first, in that setting. I've done live streams for quite some time online and interacted with live phone callers, sort of like sports talk radio. I had, the blog talk radio days. We used to have calls.
Oh, yes.
So I did that. And then, of course, I do the live stream on YouTube. And so I've had some live, a little bit of live chops, responding on the moment. Of course, being a hip hop guy, we often freestyle. We often, that's part of the pivoting on the moment, impromptu way that hip hop gets down. So a little bit of that. But this was to me like, I've always wanted to do it. You look at like, what do you call it? Late night talk shows, it was that kind of vibe where you're actually interviewing someone in front of an audience. So I prepared pretty well. John Robinson was the guy, really good friend, colleague. It's been around for a long time. He's a pro as well. So I knew that we wouldn't be, winging it too badly. So I was prepared. I was excited. I didn't know exactly what to expect because I didn't know kind of how many people there were going to be, how big the place was, exactly how it would play out.
We didn't either.
But also like y'all really like welcoming, inviting, we're totally cool about everything. We're all trying to figure it out kind of a little bit as we go along. pretty good audience, you know, a decent amount of people. They were into it. I watched the thing back and like people are yelling, you know, from the top and participating. And, you know, you mentioned the whole thing about like being in front of people. You know, before pandemic, I used to be in, you know, I was in New York and I was at a lot of the independent hip hop shows, and it was that kind of community. There was actually a real following that stuck together. We knew each other. We would see each other. We'd go to each other's shows. And, you know, it was that sort of camaraderie that pandemic really kind of stifled and squashed. And then, you know, now I'm in Atlanta. We're kind of like in a new age. So it was really nice to like do what I do in terms of telling giving the information that I give and talking to the people that I talk in front of people where you can say, like, you can hear them laugh. Like, I know I say funny things. And then people go, LOL, LOL, LOL in the chat. And that's cool. I appreciate that. But when you hear someone laugh, like a group of people laugh to something you're saying or clap because, you know, John Robinson said something deep or dope. And man, that was like, ooh, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. It's some people call it a drug. It is the best feeling. It's just, it's a whole different vibe to do what we're doing literally right now and loving our audience and interacting with them to sitting in front of 5, 10, 15, 20 people or more, right? If you can, and just having, I do a show called Wise and Nerdy, and actually you're going to be on in a couple days on that.
You're going to love Wise and Nerdy.
Yeah. And also in between Eastern Conference final games. So thank you again.
I got your writer. Andrew Wang told me what you needed. I listened.
Andrew Wang's always on the lookout for me. My guy. Yeah. Like, listen, he won't come on during this game. I'm telling you now.
He's right here making sure I treat you right. You just can't see him. Okay?
I know. Well, yeah, he's here reminding me about John Robinson.
There you go. Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Earth Station Boo.
Hey, Earth Station Boo.
I know. They dropped by again. They dropped by last week.
Happy Tuesday back at you.
Yes.
But Wise and Nerdy, it's a brand new show. Nobody had heard about it. And we did an hour at Dragon Con. And just on the description alone, it pulled maybe 10 people in a room that held 130.
Yeah.
But that interaction, that kind of energy is like, okay, it feels good. It feels good. And it confirms what you already know because you came back. You already mentioned Blog Talk Radio, and I know you and I talked about this already, and you didn't quite know the same people, but we came through Blog Talk at the same time, basically, as it was coming up and building itself out. And so where did you get started before Blog Talk, or was that your entryway into digital media?
I mean, I guess yes and no. So it's complementary. So again, also just one last thing on that is that, you know, I'm a DJ. I've been DJing, you know, for a long time. I used to do music and occasionally I would like perform on stage. And so it is the throwback to like that, being a DJ and seeing the crowd react to what you play and getting that feedback and getting that, you know, dopamine hit from watching people be engaged with what you're doing. You do it as a DJ, you're doing it through music and sitting in front of a audience doing podcast stuff. It's the same thing. So yes, it's being an artist. It's being an artist and putting it out there and getting that feedback. And it is very, very druggy. The digital part sort of translated from analog. I worked in, I stumbled into journalism.
Oh.
So I'm from Long Island, New York, and I stumbled into journalism trying to get a job. I knew graphic design, and so I was doing some graphics, so digital media, graphic design. Partially because I through my production and making music, and again using some digital tools, and sonic EPS keyboards, you know, things like that to try to make beats and make. I had a little home studio, and I had people coming over to try to, you know, make their rap songs, and I was making beats, and it was cool. We had a little click, and it was fun. But I wanted to try to, like, it was going to be a business. And so I had to advertise it. So I had to have flyers that you could pass out in the mall. And so I needed to learn graphic design because I couldn't afford to pay a graphic designer. So, you know, I acquired some graphic design software at the time. Somehow fell off of an electronic truck.
Just happened.
And I taught myself graphic design. So I did that for a little while, and that's sort of my hobby, right? And then I did get into journalism through a weekly newspaper. Anyone younger than us watching this, newspapers it was like paper that had news on it. It was weird.
And your fingers got black.
Yes,
Yeah,
right. The
'cause,
ink would come off on your
a little
fingers.
bit.
So I did that for a while, and I came in as a production manager. So I was designing and like managing the people that did design. And I'd come from some publishing, jobs before. But the newspaper was interesting to me because it was run by I don't know if you know New York, but it's a famous thing, the Village Voice. A lot of people know of the Village Voice. So the editor for the Long Island paper that I was with used to be with the Village Voice. So old, kind of, I don't say old, but he was older, but like a hippie kind of guy. Actually used to run the place called Folk City, which is a very famous club in New York City. Bob Dylan and that kind of time frame. They always used to rock at Folk City. Anyway, he was the editor. And so we became cool. I became cool with the reporters and the writers. And I do have a penchant for writing. I was decent at writing. I just never pursued it as a career or anything. I didn't pursue anything as a career. I didn't even go to college. But they gave me a chance to write. And I was like, that's cool. In the meantime, I'm doing all this music stuff. And so long story short, what I eventually realized, because in New York City, the hip hop music scene, which is like I'm a hip hop guy, that was my scene, but I was on Long Island, and New York had been the Mecca, right? We term it as the Mecca, the center, the epicenter of hip hop music and culture. But in those late,
North. Sure, we'll give you that.
Right, but in the 2000s, it did start to migrate a lot and start to take over in other places. Houston was big, New Orleans, of course,
East
and then
West Coast thing.
Right, West Coast, and then Atlanta.
Leave out Atlanta.
I was saying, I'm coming to it. I was saying that Atlanta becomes like the new Mecca, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the talk was that, and a lot of the New York media, the hip hop media followed basically the money, right? And New York wasn't as potent and covered and exalted as it once were. And I realized that that's silly because there was so much that was happening in New York that needed coverage. I stuck my nose around. I started finding some really great independent artists, some independent scenes, some weekly showcases that have been going on for like 10 years that were just incredible, cutting, where artists could cut their teeth, breeding grounds. It was fun. It was exciting, but it wasn't superstar, top, 40, you know what I mean? So they weren't really getting the attention. So I started an online magazine called Birthplace Magazine to cover that. I just started kind of blogging it myself. And then the Blog Talk Radio Show was the companion to that. So Birthplace Magazine started in about 2008 and went for about a decade. 2018 is when I sunset it. And then the New York Hip Hop Report came out on Blog Talk Radio around 2011. So I'd say that I've been podcasting, doing the audio portion of this thing since around 2011, maybe a year earlier. And that was sort of the time frame that I was very independent. I wasn't working for anybody else. It was all kind of my own thing. And just trying to make a thing out of nothing. And so I did that for a bunch of years, and that's, then it evolved in several ways we'll probably talk about, but that's where it came from. It came from me working for a newspaper.
That's the shirt we need to make, Tyra. The definition of artist is to make a thing out of nothing.
To make a thing out of nothing. Yeah.
That's all of it. Tinkerbell's gonna sneeze glitter all over the camera.
Tinkerbell's trying really hard.
Para mañana, my wife says. For tomorrow.
Waterbellin. Okay. I feel I'm with my people because you two remember Live 365 too.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like we're having geriatric night.
Shouts to, if Valencia's still in here. Bonfire Radio was another online platform that was happening. They started, I think, a little later than me. Shouts to TK and Conscious and Cooley High, who started this online radio station out of Brooklyn, a basement in Brooklyn. And they would transmit through Live 365. That was their platform. And they did a morning show called TK in the AM for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So just like your Z100 or whatever in the morning, Zany Bobby in the morning and the crew, whatever. But for the people, by the people, a little bit of culture from from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, from Flatbush, Brooklyn. And they did 1,000 episodes. 1,000 episodes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 10 years. And so Live 365. So we had a lot of things that were just independent and just out there killing it and doing wonderful. Valencia was awesome. Where we met, or where we might have re-met. So yeah, so Live 365, Blog Talk Radio, the early the G League, the minor leagues for what we're doing now.
Oh yeah, it brought back underground radio and pirate radio.
Yes,
absolutely. It was so good.
It's really where I think when I think of podcasting, I think Live 365 is where really that whole concept grew out of, for me at least. So.
Yeah, and we had a few things. There was a early, again, I love to say that, honestly, and we'd have to verify dates and all that stuff, but there was a website called 88 Hip Hop that was super early. I mean, super early. And I even think they did video. It was so early. So there were already like, and again, like to me, and people may know this, may not, but like the ingenuity, the technological ingenuity of hip hop is almost like unsurpassed in like media and, obviously pop culture, but like very early introducing, like hip hop culture to online methods of disseminating information. The blog era was huge. Like the music blog era of the 20 whatevers, early 2000s was so run and so amplified by the hip hop blogs that turned into like, that's where Drake got famous. That's where Kid Cudi got famous. That's where, like hip hoppers are really nerds, man. Hip hoppers are really real nerds. Like from the turntablism, like you had to like know how the turntable worked and check, was it a belt driver or direct drive? Nerds, man. Hip hop is full of nerds. And so that's why sometimes we're at the cutting edge of some of this stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, 100%. What's one of the coolest, or what brings a smile to your face when you think about one of the older methods of that nerddom, that way of handling, fixing the tape deck, whatever? What's one of your favorite memories?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's a lot. You said you make something out of nothing. Like, so, I mean, that's the hip hop adage has always been, hip hop made something out of nothing. Obviously, where it first came from, early 70s, just burnt out New York City, and it was just terrible. And black and brown kids didn't have any arts programs, didn't have any school, didn't have firemen and police, in their neighborhoods, and gangs, warfare, all the like they made this music and this culture sort of out of nothing. But I often like to say they actually made something out of everything. Instead of something out of nothing. It's very much a remix culture. It's a take a little bit of this, take a little bit of this, smack it, flip it, rub it down, put it together, and we get something, new. So when you have that sort of ethos, everything is that, everything is trying to find a way. I mentioned the Sonic EPS keyboard, 88 key keyboard, had a little disk drive, little 3.5-inch floppy disks, and you could save, you could sample, right? So we could lift loops from existing music. This is how a lot of hip hop was made. But you only had like 8 seconds worth of memory on the board.
Right.
8 seconds, right? So that's cool if you're just doing like a 4-bar loop, 96 beats per minute, you get a loop and you can loop it and you're great. You want to do like a 8-bar loop. Well, hopefully the tempo is a little faster so you can do that. Want to get a 16-bar loop? Forget it. You're going to run out of memory. So what I would do is, you play it on the record player. It's a 33 RPM record. You play it at 45. You record it twice as fast. It goes faster. You get it within those 8 seconds, and then you just play it slower.
That's hilarious.
It's just that little, like, how do we work with what we got to make the thing happen? So that's just, so as trying to make, I want to do this. I want to do a 16-bar loop, but I don't have the memory on the board. So how can I make that work? And, so many things, even from acquiring the software, is, necessity being, the mother of ingenuity. And there's so many examples of that in hip hop. Like I say, just from the beginning days of, we're in a park and we want to play our equipment, but we don't have any electricity. So we're going to tap into the light posts. There's electricity in those light posts.
Of course.
You might electrocute yourself and die, but we had people that were street engineers that knew how to do it. And you could go in and you tap in, and now you could power your sound system in the middle of a park. Like, what? Yeah. Like, who's doing that? Like, and these are teenagers. These are 15 and 16-year-old kids. So I've always been surrounded by that idea. We talked right beforehand of like taking a thing apart. I used to get in so much trouble. My dad used to beat my, not beat me literally, but berate me, which
Give
felt
you
like a
good
beating.
Talking to is
man,
what
he was big and loud. he was big and loud, so it felt like a beating. To try to like, what are you doing? Why are you dismantling this stuff? And I'm like, I want to like a little radio, and I have a speaker, and I want to see if I take it out and I rewire the speakers to this big speaker, what it would sound like. Like, so it's just a matter of that. It's always being looking for the side door. You know what I mean? They won't let you in the front door.
Right.
The back door is pretty locked down. What about the side door? How do I figure my way in? And
What's
so
the unexpected?
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun doing that stuff.
Well, and I think it taps into like what we saw at with John Robinson at Pod Jam, is that it taps into that part of your brain that can freestyle because you are thinking about how do I do things, and that really fast ability to do that, to figure out how do I make this situation work. It also falls back into just the lyrical rhyming as well. Yeah.
It's like, I guess it's funny. There was a study, no offhand, but they actually they did this for two things. I know they did it for improv jazz, right? They did all the the wires where they do diodes and all that to your head, and to like jazz musicians, and they saw what they had them play, like reading from music, charts or whatever, and their brain was like and then they had them do improv,
whatever,
and it was a whole different part of the brain, like a whole different part of the brain was lit up. They did the same thing, I think, with freestyle rap. I want to say I'm pretty certain there was a study that did the same kind of thing, and again, similar kind of things. You're activating a different part of the brain, which is where probably I'm not that scientific, but probably where problem solving comes from, where risk avoidance comes from on the fly, just being able to communicate better or anything. And so it's like, if we activate those parts of the brains, and my hip hop practitioners would say, if you practice at activating those parts of your brains through freestyle rapping, then you're actually strengthening those parts of your brain. So,
there's a Reddit on this, by the way.
I'm sure.
There's a Reddit on everything.
Reddit on everything.
True, but
Reddit is this generation's white papers. Like the next generation of scientists are going to make Reddit posts, not publish white papers and articles.
Yeah, there you go.
What do you want to ask him, Tyra? You got some good thoughts there on how everything works.
So, what is, if you were going to introduce somebody to hip hop?
Yeah.
What would you start with?
Oof. And I guess the question I get a lot, or that some of us get a lot, tends to be folks who are less familiar with all of this, intricacy that I talk about, is sort of like the differentiation between like hip hop and rap. And, like a lot of people just think of hip hop as rap, as the genre, right? And then you hear me talking like, no, there's a whole physiological, psychological, philosophical, cultural, right? Different. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? It's rap songs, bro. Like, what's this guy talking about? Is he insane? So the first thing that I would want everyone to kind of understand is that hip hop, even though it's also the name of the genre, is the name of the culture that the genre sits under. Right. I don't say most people, but certainly a good deal of the public don't recognize hip hop as this culture, right? Yeah. This cultural movement, this cultural phenomenon, the social movement. Sometimes people say, but it is more than just the music. It, in fact, if you really look at the beginnings, the DJ is the cornerstone. DJing started before rapping, right? But rap has become like the forefront, the front facing, the most lucrative, the most, like I say, public facing aspect of the culture. But it's important in the same way that I'd be like, yeah, Egyptians, pyramids and stuff. Yeah, I get it. Like, no, like, sure. But yes, and
I was thinking, country island music, like when country music got Kenny Chesney and Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Yeah. Of course. There's nuances to it. And again, past the genre, or the commercial aspects of it. It's just that you wouldn't say, oh yeah, I know all about ballet. I seen the swan thing with the two swans and that's ballet, right? I'm like, yeah, but like even
sort of not
right. but they would never. Most people just don't get that it's a culture, that there's more to it than that. That there is literally sort of a worldview that can emerge,
right?
If you've come from the communities from which like hip hop is sort of a soundtrack, but also a cultural influence. that gets nuanced. And people say, well, what do you mean? And I'm saying, well, listen, you normally associate, I'm speaking, generally, of course, but most people associate hip hop with black folk, and that's great because they're the originators of it, and it's fantastic. But we've seen it, obviously, in America. Every demographic participates in either enjoying the music or perhaps being involved in the dance. We saw in the Olympics, or even before the Olympics, the breaking scene in America is a whole plethora of demographics participating in it. Rap may have stayed, generally speaking, one demographic, but DJing, of course, there's a lot of different multicultural DJs in America. And then if you go out throughout the world, there's hip hop everywhere. So what you're seeing is you see this sort of, I don't know, what do they say, like underneath the trees, the mushrooms and the trees all have like this interconnected,
I know what you're thinking.
You know what I'm saying?
Ecosphere.
Ecosphere.
And they're all like sort of connected underneath everything. And so Tony Blackman, who I just had on my podcast a few weeks ago, says this is the thing about hip hop. You can actually pick her up and put her, or me, or anyone who's in this scene, and drop you off into another part of the world where we don't know the language, we don't look the same, we may not speak the same, language, we may not have the same cultures or customs from a nationalistic sense, but we can find hip hop. And we find the people doing hip hop, we have a community that will welcome us in. And we can have a place to eat. We'll probably have a place to sleep. And we'll have friends like immediately. And I don't know, and this is kind of why I love what I talk about so much. I don't know that there's anything else. And I challenge anyone. The community you might be in, not your religious community, damn sure not. You go in the wrong part of the world, it's rap. Not your sports community, not your political community. Like, what other group of people that are like globally connected through that under ecosystem? And it's a beautiful thing. Maybe it's not the only one, but for damn sure it's a good one. And it's a beautiful thing. So when I introduce people to hip hop, the last thing I'm going to talk about is rap music. The first thing I'm going to talk about is culture, community. Yeah. Yep, culture, community, and and in my lane, my particular lane, ingenuity and innovation.
I think that makes a lot of sense to dive into what connects it. And it's unique in the sense that it is a thing that I think is very American in a way.
Yeah.
And its heritage and its start, and then how you can find that same vibe, as you said, worldwide. Because the experiences of hip hop culture are in every culture. There's always that marginalized segment that hip hop, I think, speaks to. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, you don't have to. Someone says Mark Katz, who I featured in my book, goes around the world. There's a whole program called Next Level where they actually send groups of hip hop artists around the world. It's run by the United States Department of State, by the way. So it's the State Department organization.
Lord, I hope they still have funding.
They don't, but I'm almost certain they don't. But they did for 10 years, or maybe more than that. It's been actually going on since like the 50s and 60s. If you ever saw Louis Armstrong with a trumpet in front of the Sphinx, that iconic photo with his wife sitting there, it was a precursor to this same program.
Oh, that's awesome.
So for a long time, the United States, and we could talk about it, we won't, but like the dichotomy of being cultural ambassadors to the rest of the world, as also some would say imperialists. Well, we can talk about it later. But
we'll leave that over there.
We'll leave it over there. But the point is that people have done this, and they've gone around the world, specifically to conflict regions sometimes. Like that's their approach. Yeah. So what they're saying is we're coming here to do hip hop together, but what we're really trying to teach, the under vibe, that's a word I invented at Podjam. The under vibe of what we're doing is actually conflict resolution.
Right.
And you would think, and again, this goes way against what most people think about rap and hip hop and people who are typically associated with it, that it is actually a really great tool for conflict resolution or redirection. They like to say conflict redirection. You're redirecting those energies into something artistic. And again, every art does that, right? Maybe we're mad and we paint, and that's how we get out our thing. But the community and the interconnectivity and the, like you said, the way it connects so many cultures, because you don't need anything. You don't need a guitar. You don't need an amp. You don't need to play music. All you need is your voice. And if you're a dancer, all you need is your body. And all you need is your mind. And you can do hip hop. And so it's like someone said, maybe it was him. It's like or maybe Mikal Amin, who's in my book also. It's like the soccer of like everyone in the world plays soccer. It's the most popular sport in the world. Why? Because you don't need anything but a ball.
Right.
And poor people and marginalized people and oppressed people, they can find a ball and a field. And so hip hop's sort of like that. It is accessible to everybody, and that's what gives it that universality that, you won't see in as much in other genres. And then again, like I said, the way that we've now found ways to be ingenious and remix other things. That's not just in the music. It's like I said, it's me trying to figure out how to do something technically. It's me trying to say, how can this be applied to education? Or, like with John Robinson, what he does. And when you start applying it to that, it's like, whoa, this thing is really powerful. It's a powerful way of seeing the world. So
Adam Driver did the same thing with acting. Was he used acting because it's something that you don't have to have anything else to do to work on expressing emotions related to PTSD with soldiers. So there's a lot. I think there's a huge thing about connecting with that. And I think Earth Station Boo said it very well, that music is a universal language.
Yeah, I mean, we've all said that. It soothes the savage beast, all the great things that music can do.
Or it stirs the savage beast.
Hey, listen, we need some stirring sometimes, damn it.
Yes, and I deleted the cuss word that was in my brain. Thank you.
But to that point, it's like, yes, you're right. Acting, you don't need to do anything. I watched Sing Sing, by the way, which is a great movie, and, showed some of that. But okay, cool. But we're talking about young people. We're talking about youth culture. No. And that's their language. It's the same thing. It works in parallel. It works. You can learn from, hey, Adam Driver, teach me what you did to some of those folks doing, because now we're trying to get the same thing to these young folks, but we're going to do it through hip hop. We're going to do it through rap, which is poetry. And listen, when we were young, what did they tell us to do? Write a poem about how you feel about a thing.
It's a haiku.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't really like poetry.
I don't do that.
Poetry's stupid. But if you ask me to write a rap about it, I'd be like, ooh, let me flex these bars. Let me get down. Let me show what I could do. And that's what they're doing to the young people. It's still the same thing, though. It's just that you're recognizing how they communicate.
Well, I think the greatest poets of this century are rappers and hip hop artists. I mean, if you want to look where I think truly deep feeling poetry is, go look there.
Yeah. I mean, every genre people do this, but hip hop's like punk, and I'm like, sure,
it's different.
It's just different. Like, first of all, we get more words in a line than y'all do.
Oh my God! I mean,
there's so many more words.
I'm a 1968 baby, so I know all about punk, and
Punk's great.
But it's also, I mean, in many ways, it was the culture. It's the clothing. Right. It was everything that was going on that was happening, particularly in the UK.
Yeah. Punk and hip hop have a great connection, by the way, that the punk scene in New York City, Lower East Side, CBGBs down there, Fab Five Freddy and them would bring hip hop from uptown to downtown. And they were like, yeah, nobody wants that uptown black stuff. And then the punk scene was like, yeah, come on in. Let's go. Let's rock. Like, it's all good. And so there was a synergy there, and they both with the rebelliousness punk has some great connectivity to hip hop.
It just didn't sustain.
It
didn't sustain it because I think there was a bigger community of hip hop.
Yeah, and I think
punk expressed.
But I thought also you touched on it, like the poetry part. Like you can get a lot more.
Yes.
Like Bismarcky had a song about picking boogers. Like, come on, man. Like any subject, you could have a poetic. Truth. Like, come on, the punk rockers weren't. Bob Dylan wasn't going to write no song about picking boogers, but it's an important part of life. We have to discuss all the elements of the human experience, do we not?
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm a Virgo. Let's just.
Fine. Fine. But,
definitely
a wide range. It's so funny to hear people. I appreciate that you say that, that you're not me. It's my job to cheerlead for this, but you're like, some of the most poetic, artists of our time are rappers. And I'm like, of course. Why
if you
wouldn't
take
they
the
be?
if you take the music away and you give people the words instead,
Yeah.
particularly of ones that are talking about society and culture
Yeah.
and the fights that we're having, i- and you give it to somebody and they don't know that it's hip hop or rap,
Yeah.
that's when
Good point.
there's light bulbs that come on and connections, so that you can take something that appeals to young people but go put it in front of a boomer or somebody older, and they can see in their remembering the youth, oh yeah, that's poetry that we could have done. Well, guess what, this young man that looks nothing like you
Right.
is who said this.
That's right. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
So
Yeah,
says the girl who
imagine.
grew up on the Sugar Hill Game.
There you go. Hey, listen, nothing wrong with that. That's,
No, they were awesome. They opened up a whole like white America,
Yeah,
to be honest, to
absolutely.
the idea of hip hop and rap.
Yeah. Where did you grow up? I'm gonna do the
I
journalist
grew up
thing.
in Stone Mountain.
Hey, right near me. Well, not
Yeah.
really, but close enough.
I'm a Atlantan by birth. So
Oh,
I've
you're
been here-
old. You're Atlanta with no
I
T.
am.
You're
I went-
Atlanta.
yeah, Atlanta, no T. And I grew up I was born in Decatur, so
Okay.
um,
I'm close. I'm about 40 minutes away.
that's not bad. I'm
Yeah,
in
I-
Kennesaw now. I live it up
Yeah,
here.
my daughter graduated from KSU.
Yay, that's where I
in
teach.
KSU. I was just at Copeland's.
Oh
I was there
yes.
like Saturday. I was Copeland's.
What did she
Yeah.
graduate with?
She graduated criminal justice. She's actually APD training right now. She's gonna be
Look
she's gonna
at
be
you.
a cop. I don't know.
You did good.
I'll see that down. I don't know, man.
No,
No, that's great. That's great.
She has investigative aspirations. She
Yeah.
wants to go a little bit more deeper into the mix, but you have to do the
You
thing
have to
first.
do the beat
Yeah.
first. But
But-
to
yeah.
have a woman,
Yeah.
I mean, we have to have women
Yep.
that are taking on that profession, and that
Yep.
and
And she's
it's beautiful.
she's hip to the problems that have plagued the policing and law enforcement industry. So you would hope that the more people going in with that knowledge and trying to make positive changes from within are what we need. So I'm
And-
okay with it for now.
and more importantly, hootie hoo.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
where I
KSU.
teach.
KSU.
I just don't
That's
teach
good.
criminal justice. I teach over in marketing.
Okay, that's very cool. Yeah,
So.
I'd love to teach. I'm trying to get into teaching next.
Now,
But,
I heard you as you were
Yeah.
telling your stories. When you inspire so many stories, I just throw them out. It's like, 'cause I just want to listen to you. But I think I heard you mutter once or twice. You have a book? Maybe
Oh,
a
yeah.
book or something?
Oh God, so okay. This is actually, first of all, I do appreciate y'all, and we were supposed to do this before, it got postponed. So did the book, right? So you're
See?
actually the first media appearance now that the book is
Look at
officially
that.
available. It literally finally came properly available. There was some delays and some snafus. But it officially came available today. So
Ah.
y'all are literally my first media appearance.
Okay, so I'm grabbing the link, Charles. Be ready, because I have
I'm
no
ready.
power. He took my power away, people.
You just, whatever. It's the pink. The pink is your kryptonite. So,
This
So-
is my artificial intelligence.
So I'm very relieved today. It's supposed to be out in April, bro. It's supposed to be out April 22nd. It's almost a month late. So I've been very stressed about it. Today was a big, woosah off my back, knowing that I was going to have y'all to talk to. I'm going to be in New York for a book talk next, like in 2 weeks. So I'm like, this book need to be out. I can't be talking about a thing that nobody can get. So yeah, I do have a book. It's called Hip Hop Can Save America, which is the name of the podcast.
yeah.
The subtitle is Inspiration for the Nation from a Culture of Innovation.
Nice.
Like it.
And it's thank you. And it's it's sort of it's interesting to us podcast folk who obviously I have some hip hop folks in the building, but we also have some podcasters who listen to y'all. It's a podcast turned into a book in some ways. It's a collection of some foundational interviews that I conducted on my podcast, Hip Hop Can Save America, over the years. Early, so it's a lot of the early ones that really set the stage or set the tone for some of the stuff I'm talking about with y'all tonight. That really opened my eyes to some of these interesting intersections of hip hop and education, or hip hop and mental health therapy, and people who are doing that work. And so I interviewed them. And so what I did was I took a bunch of transcripts from those interviews and compiled them in a book and kind of added my own commentary to each interview. Each interview is a chapter, and hey, why did I pick this person? How does it tie into my general thesis? How do they kind of validate what I'm trying to talk about? And we strung it all. Me and my team of me, strung it all together into a veritable tome. It's a 300-page book.
Damn.
Yeah, and but it's great, and it's out, and it's available, and you can go to mannyfaces.com/book.
Yep.
mannyfaces.com/book.
That's the pre-order link is the well, not the.
It's an order link now.
Tyra used to talk, and it was so
I wanted
awesome.
it to be. I was supposed to put out a.
No.
Yeah, that's the Peter Lang link that y'all are putting up is the direct link. Yes,
And that's from your website, just so you know.
Yeah. That's it. That's 100%. I put it up today. I put it up today, like literally like 2 hours before we talk.
It's available for pre-order on Amazon as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm looking at the page.
Holy cow, that's great.
Speaking
Get it from
of
Peter
marketing,
Lang.
But
she is a great marketer. You're welcome.
Look, this
you
all
might
happened today.
you might want to look. It says that it's not being released till December, so talk to somebody about that. But you definitely can get it from Peter now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it may be that there's a sort of a
Delay.
Yeah, an embargo. Like it may be that they can't release it on Amazon until it's been on the publisher's site for a long time. But anyway, mannyfaces.com/book or the Peter Lang link is directly from the publisher. Peter Lang is an international academic publisher.
Yep, I was noticing.
Yeah, they're good. They've done a lot of hip hop stuff. It's actually part of a series. There's a hip hop studies series and some other books in it. I'm the 5th volume in that series. I'm ridiculously honored and
awesome.
humbled that I was able to do this. As I mentioned real quick, I didn't even go to college. My dad was a distinguished professor of sociology who taught for over 40 years. I got a PhD from Rutgers University, taught at Ohio State, and taught for a good time at SUNY Old Westbury in Long Island. He passed away about 15 years ago, lamented that he never wrote a book.
Aww.
Was never able to finish his text. But he actually wrote it, and then somebody stole his title, and then he was like, and I'm like, so just pick a new title. He's like, no, the whole thing's tied into the title. So he was gonna rewrite it, and he worked for years. That's how I got into computers, because he bought a computer to stop typing it on a Smith Corona typewriter. The whole thing. So
Yay, Dad.
It means a whole lot to me that there's an actual book. I still don't even have a physical copy of it. It's ridiculous. There were some snafus, but it is available. And I think that it is inspiring, some of the stuff we've been talking about tonight. And really, as much as I like to talk and center me, it's a book of other people. It's
right.
13 people that I thought were worthy of telling the world about and hearing from them directly, hearing our banter and our back and forth where, I'm a pretty good interviewer. I extracted some good stuff, but really like the work they're doing, in this weird coalescing of hip hop and education or mental health therapy or archiving or international conflict resolution, or being a teaching artist, McCalamine, who goes into Rikers Island and works with young men doing hip hop poetry workshops to get them, very much like Sing Sing, but he's been doing it for years, without the acclaim of, a Hollywood movie to big him up. So I bigged him up. People like the folks I work with at Newsbeat, another podcast that we do where we cover news, but we intertwine it with hip hop. Like there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I just wanted to tell these other people's stories to like folks who don't know them. And they spend so much time doing the good work. They don't have time to market themselves.
Right.
They work for universities. They don't have a marketing budget. They can't. They do like academic papers because you have to publish and you have to do all the things. But like, I'm trying to get on, MSNBC to talk about them, to be like, I'm the conduit. I'm trying to bring them to light because they're doing such great work. They're saving lives, and young people. It's great.
You're going to become a guest lecturer and these kind of things. You're going to teach. You're going to have a class offered to you at your favorite college, NYU, maybe, to teach Hip Hop Saves America. And then they're going to call you Professor Faces. And then you go to your dad's grave and like, boom, no college. I'm a professor.
Right.
Hip hop, baby. Hip hop.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that's not part of the scheme. Like that's part of it. Like I'm trying. Like it's. Well, we all got. Some of us got daddy issues.
Yeah.
And honestly, like he was such a brilliant man, such a brilliant guy. Obviously didn't love that I didn't go to college. Or I went for like 20 minutes. But
at least you tried.
Listen, the shoemaker's son doesn't have any shoes. Like we know that parable, right?
It's true.
What do you want me to do? But honestly, like I learned a lot from a distinguished professor of sociology as your dad, who studied urban studies, sociology of minorities. Like I knew what gentrification meant when I was 8.
Yeah.
Like my dad was super woke. He grew up in Newark, New Jersey. He went to school with Joe Clark. From
Stand and Deliver.
From no, it wasn't Stand and Deliver. It was You're
one.
Right. Huh?
Yeah.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, now they call me Batman. It was Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Stand by Me, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. We went to school with him. So he was, sort of wokish before it was a thing, but really like a great global sense. And so I learned a lot, and I think that maybe all that contributed to, like, I'm very much, look, this is the thing about hip hop, and I want everyone to know you don't have to be hip hop to understand that the things you come across in life, the influences, take all of that in, put it all together. They don't have to be like separate. When you mash them all together, my dad like teaching me college level stuff at home, but not going to college and out there working to raise a kid because I had a kid at 18. You know what I mean? Like being a young dad, but doing hip hop, but figuring out how to make the samples longer. Like if you push it all together, like don't like look back. Lean on me. Thank you, Valencia. Lean on me. I'll stand by me. Lean on me. Stand and deliver me. Deliver me.
Sort of the same.
It's all the same. It's all the same movie,
little
except
ant thrown in.
Except Lean on Me wasn't the white savior one; it was actually the black savior one. Great.
That's it.
That's true.
But that, so I think that's the beauty. It's why I love hip hop so much. I found a community that would welcome me in as long as I'm being authentic to it, and it's always like, oh no, who says we can't do that thing? We can. Who says we can't be awesome together? We could be awesome together. You don't have to be alone. Take some of what I do. Take some of what you do. Let's put it together. And you don't have to be from where I'm from. We can make stuff happen, and it's magic. And that's hip hop. And that's what I want people to get from the book.
So,
I just want to say one thing. Your dad would be so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, I could just as a professor to have a son that goes and does what you didn't do.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful thing. And I'm sure that he is just cheering you on like crazy.
It's
there's no crying in podcasting. What are we doing, Tinkerbell?
Cry every week, Charles.
Oh my God.
Hi, my name is Tinkerbell, and I'm the emotional component of Be Awesome Together.
I haven't cried since the Knicks just won the Eastern Conference semifinals last week.
You got to have priorities. Yeah. I cried at this year's Super Bowl, but for not good reasons.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I say it in the book that in the introduction, at some point, he's my muse, and literally everything I'm doing is try to be like, hey, Dad, what do you think about this?
Aww.
And so, yeah, I think he'd be like, oh yeah, I mentioned him a few times in the book. We used to have the arguments that we probably had with our parents about that dang music you listen to, right? Yes. And then we did it to our kids. That dang music you listen to, like, that whole thing. My dad was a jazz and blues guy, Man, so it's hard to be like, it's hard to be like, yo, Dad, listen to Run DMC. And he's like, I'm listening to Count Basie. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they're dope. He's like, they're not dope.
No. Thelonious Monk.
Right. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about here? Like, I'm listening to B.B. King. So, but again, having those influences meant a lot. And I don't know. I think that we did get into some conversations later in life about the musicality part of it, which is great. I touch upon that in the book. I interviewed DeLate. He's a great music educator. Taught at the Berklee College of Music up in Massachusetts, Jarrett Scheel. And we talked about like how hip hop isn't, viewed as music. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a bias, it's whatever. Sure. But how important and how much musicality is actually in hip hop. He passed away a couple years after I interviewed him. So he's the one interview in my book that's actually, post-mortem. I don't know say it like that. Yeah. But I was really honored to have his perspective, and we talked about, sort of that, those talks I used to have with my dad. And I was just getting into like more of this deeper stuff when he passed away. So I think he would, and he dug it. He saw where I was going with it. And it is sociological in a way. It's very, anthropological, the way I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at it. And so, yeah, in a lot of ways, I feel like, it's, yeah, it's
Here,
it's
here's
part of what it did.
here's a word that you need to steal for your second book.
Okay.
Polyamorous. Love that my mom was polyamorous and introduced her kids
Yo.
to a plethora of musical genres and styles.
Yo,
Earth
that's
Station Boo.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Polyamorous. I love it. I'm not joking. That's brilliant.
Right.
I will cite you because we cite people around here. But I'm going to use that. I'm gonna have to cite you. That's dope. Yeah. I mean, that was, part of it. And then like through my I grew up in a, neighborhood. We mostly black, some Hispanic and a few Italians on the other side of town. And so my dad was jazz and blues, but he wasn't soul. He wasn't like James Brown. He wasn't into that stuff. But like through my friends' families, I got into some of that. Friends' families were also Caribbean, so I was listening to like reggae and stuff, really early on before, well, it was after Sugar Hill Gang, but I was young. So, we were getting like all of these influences. And then hip hop, on the radio in New York, was sort of, again, the epicenter where it first started. So there is something to be said for being polyamorous. Yeah, 100%. It's,
I love that.
It's a beautiful thing. That's why I love, people hate TikTok, man, but my daughter, Baby Girl Faces, 10 years old. Shouts to one time for the baby girl. One time for the great baby girl faces. She like she'll know so many like interesting things, like music and songs and like stuff. She's over here like, I always feel like somebody's watching me. I'm like, how do you know that song? Like, she's like TikTok, and then she'll come with stuff that I'm like, yo, what do you listen to? It sounds kind of cool. Like, so it's multi-generational. It's polyamorous. Like, you gotta. Don't give up on music, y'all. Don't give up on music.
That leads me to the last question of the night. I've been thinking about it since halfway through.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for a while, from the writing and then starting your own paper, doing the early days of digital media, those kind of things. There had to be times when you were just down, when everything was just like, I'm blocked, I don't feel creative, I can't. What made you keep going? Because it does seem like you've reached at least a good point on the arc of your career to where this is what you get to do, to a point. I know you do editing and stuff, which we can talk about. It is what kept you going to get to this point where you're publishing a book and you're going to fly to New York and talk about it, and you're now becoming more recognized than you were when you were down on yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's constant. I mean, anybody artistic would know that happens. Like, the ups and downs can happen 17 times a day. Yeah. Just yesterday, I was probably the lowest I'd been in months. I'd been really on an upswing. Like, things are coming together. It's all coming together. Everything's working out. And then like I get bang, bang, like the book is delayed. Like I said, it's been delayed for weeks, and it just starts to, it's like snowballing. And I'm like, I got to be in New York in 2 weeks, and I can't even give them a link. And today I could, and I had to do a little bit of sometimes you have to write a letter to management. So I had to do it was getting a little bit extra, and they came through. And shouts to Peter Lang, great publisher. There were some delays and snafus, but they're making it right. And I worked in publishing for 20 years, so I know how it goes. So I just want to shout them out. It happens. Make it right, and we'll be best friends. So I was really down though. Like, this was yesterday, and today I'm like this because I'm happy. So I think that what I do to get out of it when I'm down, because again, that can happen at any time, and extended periods. And artists, we're artists, and shouts to Erykah Badu, who said, I'm an artist, I'm sensitive about my ish. So we get sensitive, and we get,
it's true.
We mood swings and self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all the things. There were a couple of times in my life that I was as down as could be. And we probably have all our rock bottom day, right? We know what that day is. We know where we were. We know what we were going through, at the time. And I'm talking about rock bottom, like, living out of a car for 2 weeks because I, was unable to go home for legal reasons in the middle of a divorce, and like, right, where I had to stay at my friend's house, and the only bed that was available was like his daughter's bed, and I had to stay in his daughter's bed because otherwise I wouldn't have a place to sleep. And this was a divorce, so you know how custody and divorce can go, and it gets hectic and it gets wild. and it really felt sort of hopeless. And long story, we're not getting into that tonight, but long story short, I ended up winning custody actually of my kids. And so this was like, many years ago, the daughter that just graduated KSU, right? So now she's 25 years old. I won custody when she was like 8 or 9. They stayed with me. My ex-wife moved to Atlanta, the Atlanta area. I stayed up north with them. They graduated college. Then eventually was like, hey, I'm going to go stay down with, my mom. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. I did the heavy lifting. Go ahead. Good shit. Can't tell me nothing. I did the hard part. I did the hard part. Can't tell me nothing. Shouts to Mrs. Faces, my, stepmom came through, helped me do this thing, for all these years. And I say I was at Copeland's the other day. We were celebrating my son's engagement. And who put together the party? His birth mom, right, who was there. His other mom, me, blended family. We do Thanksgiving together. We do Friendsgiving together. We're all cool now. So I look at the trajectory and say I was worse. I was at my lowest point ever, where I thought I had no job. I lived out of my car. I was kicked out of my house. Things were crazy. I didn't think I was going to see my kids, blah, blah, blah. And here I am all these years later, celebrating my son getting engaged with my ex-wife and my wife and my ex-wife, like, yo, what up? You did that, man. You did that. Nah, babe. Oh, you took pictures. Oh, you did your daughter's hair like that. Yo, the cupcakes are dope. I'm listening to like they best friends. We're all cool. Everyone's there. Me and her husband is like, yo, it's my guy, my man. I'm talking to her parents, like those are my ex-in-laws, but we still love each other. And I'm saying, dang, man, if I could go from that to this, then what could really stop me? What could really keep me down for very long? Yeah, my book isn't coming out on time. There's people that aren't eating tonight. I want my book to come out. I'm working hard for this. I'm broke. I need, I need some things. Podcast editing is, feast or famine. That's what I do for a living. I've won Signal Awards. I've won Webby Awards, but sometimes there's no client. And so I'm like, yeah, I really need the book to come out. I need some keynotes. I need to make a couple dollars. Baby Girl Faces needs new sheen. You know what I mean? I don't need a lot because Sheen is, Sheen, but we need new Sheen. But I remember to those low times, and I say, listen, we've all, if we're here talking tonight, if you're here listening to this tonight, if you're chatting in the chat room, if you're watching this on a replay, we've all been to that point that's lower than we are right now, and somehow we got out of it, and we're here right now. So if we did that, we could probably get through this. So that's kind of where I go back to my dark time and say, listen, I try to be a good dude. We've all made mistakes. We've all had stumbles. But we're still here, and that's not by accident. So, that's kind of, and also like, I still need to prove my dad. I got stuff to do.
And I think to a point, we all get into it to touch other people's lives and to help others be awesome. And Valencia thoughts about during 2020, your on-air shows on Sundays were everything to her.
Yeah. The R&B brunch, Sunday R&B brunch on Bonfire Radio. For like 2 years, I ran I did a just DJ'd music. I love DJing, but it was pandemic, and so I couldn't go out and do it.
Right.
People love hearing music, not just playlists, but then their guy coming in between songs and telling, they knew what was happening. Like exactly. So we did that. And so, there is a mission to it. Like, this is labor of love. No one pays me to do this. Like, the book is a terrible book deal. Terrible book. It's not against the publisher, but I'm a first time publisher. No, I don't have PhDs. Yeah. So they're like, you're gonna get like 30 cents in chicken wings and be happy. And I'm like, yep, I'm happy. But yes, I think this is to inspire other people. This is absolutely 100% what I want to come out of this. And so there's a mission, there's inspiration, and there's drive that comes from, knowing that, if this is what I want to do, I can keep doing it. And it'll all, the mantra I've been saying for a couple months, this is, new. And I said it briefly earlier. I said, it's all coming together. Right. And I'm saying that as sort of a manifestation. Like, I'm not a believer. You're not going to get me to read The Secret and be like, yeah, just think positive. No, this is ridiculous. But
I do believe in speaking it into existence, though.
And I'm okay with that. And I'm trying to like kind of find I'm a very logical person.
You got to put shit behind it, but
yeah, right. So it's all coming together to me is saying that there's things that work behind the scenes that I can't see.
Right.
You know, and everything. Remember what I said at the very beginning is everything that's prepared me for to be able to come here and talk to y'all about everything I do, or appearing at Pod Jam, my first rodeo. But like I was ready because we're all getting ready.
10,000
like if
hours.
hey, I got an opportunity, let's go. Or y'all gonna do something at Dragon Con. You're ready because we're just doing it and we just keep doing it. And that makes me feel like it's all coming together. I don't know how or why, but if you came to me tomorrow and said, Manny, I think you're ready for X, Y, and Z, you damn right I'm ready. And so it's all coming together. This stuff happening behind the scenes. I may not see it every day. You know, yesterday I felt like punching a wall. And then today, my book came out.
Yeah.
So it's all coming together. Just be patient. My Mrs. Faces, I'll end with this. I'll land the plane. Mrs. Faces says to me all the time, you know, she's very much like, think positive, manifest. And I'm like, okay. But so as a joke, when something turns out like right, I'll turn her and be like, I told you everything's gonna be all right. I don't know why.
Like
Some people listening.
baby. Yeah.
And it takes everything in her to not slap me across the face. So there's something to be said for, you know, the manifesting and just trusting the process, and, you know, and believing that even if you can't see it every day, if you're working and doing the work, then maybe it's all coming together.
Yeah, I call it setting up the metaphorical dominoes, where you can't see them, but you know you're building this area and over here and over, and you can only realize you're setting up invisible dominoes, the metaphorical dominoes, the metaphysical dominoes, if you will, even. If you look back and take note of your life and see where you were and see where you've come, and then allow those around you who are saying the positive things, like, you did great with that show. I'm your fan.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And you have to accept that, right? You can't reject. Then you can go, once you, in your mind, turn around and look forward, you go, I didn't know those dominoes were getting set, and there I can see I walked on them. Yeah. Now I can kind of see there's stuff coming that I can't see.
And I look back and say some of the things I wanted so badly at the time, and I didn't get it. And I was like, why do I even bother?
Yeah.
And then like a year later, I'm like, oh God, I'm glad I didn't get that shit. Because
oh no. What did you do to Manny?
No, I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did.
I'm here.
He's there. I don't know. It's a moment.
Yeah, I mean, like, imagine, like, there was a time that I wanted to have a record deal with Bad Boy Records, run by Sean Puffy Combs.
You dodged the bullet, sir.
I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know if I wanted that. You know, I wanted to get a fellowship at this place or that place, and it's like, you know, I would have had to, like, live on campus for 6 months, and we had just moved here, and I'm like, no, those first 6 months were super great. So, the dominoes, we try to plan for things, and then all of a sudden something come out from left field, and it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I never would have predicted this. So just be ready. Just keep doing. Just keep working. I know it's cliche, you know. Just keep swimming.
I was thinking that. Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. A fish taught me that.
Yeah.
And you know, and be ready. There you go. Let's go.
So, all right, surf the chaos.
That's right.
Surf the chaos. I like that.
He hangs on my microphone.
Yeah. And you know what? Not for nothing. That's hip hop. That's hip hop. Just take it as it comes. Make $1 out of 15 cents. Make something out of everything. Sneak it through the side door. Remix it. Smack it. Flip it. Rub it down. All the things that hip hop does by nature. It's inherent in our DNA. And sometimes we can help people bring it out of theirs. And so that's a lot of the work that the folks that I'm connected to do. To help, you know, help bring that out of, because we forget sometimes how to do it. We get really caught up, and you know, and everyone, you know, can use a little hip hop in their life and use it for the power of good. And so that's what I preach. And so I'm really glad y'all had me on here to yap about it.
And one more time, tell everybody where they can find more of you.
Yeah, I mean, mannyfaces.com sort of branches off to everything. My socials there.
You have a newsletter.
I do have a newsletter that's there too. The Hip Hop Can Save America, so mannyfaces.com, you can branch off to everything. HipHopCanSaveAmerica.com is specifically the brand. From there, you'll get the podcast, the live stream, and the videos on YouTube, the newsletter, the Discord server. We have a Discord server that we just started up recently, and of course now, we have a subreddit too. Actually, Hip Hop Culture.
Awesome.
Hip Hop Culture is the subreddit that I took over. and the book. The book is available. So you can find all that from either of those two places, mannyfaces.com or hiphopcasaveamerica.com, and the book is available. And I'll be speaking about it in Atlanta.
Ooh.
Well, on mannyfaces.com, you can see my calendar. So I'm New York and Atlanta centric. I'll be in New York for the Hip Hop Ed Conference on June 6th and 7th. I'll be doing a couple of things while I'm there, DJing a little birthday to the book birthday party. I should have something in Atlanta. I'll definitely have something in Atlanta. Oh, it's called Crafted for Action. It's a craft beer festival that's happening in Atlanta in June. It's on my calendar.
I'm looking right now. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
You're loading slowly, Manny.
I know. That's really cool because all my juice is here, being at 720.
Obviously.
Yeah. But we're doing a panel discussion about sort of hip hop's influence in the craft beer world. Because again, there's an intersection with hip hop and everything.
Sure. Can we talk about the wine world? Okay. Anyway.
Okay. The lady who's running the panel, her name is Randy. She has a if you go to Diversified Wines on Instagram, she does hip hop and wine events. She's done it in Atlanta at the Moda. You know the Moda.
Yeah.
It's the museum of
museum. She does. So yes, there's hip hop and wine. We've done that. She's done that. This will be hip hop and beer.
Diversity. What is it?
Diversified Wines or Diversified Vines. I don't know. I'm not sure offhand, but I know it exists. Her name is Randy with an I.
I found it.
There you go. I always shout people out. That's what I do every day. Shouts to everyone doing these great things. I'm just a conduit. But yeah, we've done some good stuff. So yeah, I challenge you to ask for a combination of hip hop and something, and I can't point to someone that's doing it.
Cooking.
Hip hop,
Who's doing
and
hip
golf.
hop and cooking?
Hip hop and cooking?
Yeah.
Trick Daddy is a Miami rapper. He has a YouTube show, and it's like Cooking with Trick or something like that. So it's a cooking show. Trick Daddy does it. Hip hop and golf, I'd have to think about. I'd have to come back to you on that. But there's probably someone.
Trust me.
There's hip hop and architecture. There's hip hop and forestry. There's hip hop and there's all kind of stuff. It's a beautiful place.
All right, Tyra, where can we find you?
TyraBurton.com because it's just easy.
And you can find everything that I do over at Linktree/RGOP42.
You are
short for
obsessed
Rock
with
on
your...
a Podcasting 40. Yes, it's my name. Say my name. Say my name.
Let's go.
We do not have that kind of relationship.
And I think our next live appearance together, Tyra, is Southern Fried.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not. You're doing stuff unless I'm doing stuff with you. Am I doing stuff with you?
I don't remember. I can't remember.
Oh,
no, you're right because they did not Be Awesome together.
Right? How dare they not?
Oh,
yeah.
Banji Boombox, also another. It's actually a podcast related thing. It's on my calendar. So mannyfaces.com calendar. Banji Boombox. I'm going to shout out to them. We just got added to a panel there. It's a bunch of. We're going to talk about sort of the audio and sound and music aspects of making podcasts. Some of my colleagues that work in that field. So just want to shout them out because it's in Atlanta also. At the Buckhead, something in Buckhead, but it's on my calendar.
I'm finding it. So Hip Hop Ed Conference is Friday, June 6th. Then you have panelists at the Crafted for Action Craft Beverage Conference on the 20th of June, which is a Friday.
That's right.
And then Banji Boombox Atlanta on Sunday, August 3rd, excuse me.
That's true.
And you can get it, but I will tell you, if you're on a Mac, don't go on Safari, go on Chrome.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't load on Safari, but when I flipped over to Chrome, it loaded.
Good to know. I also used to build websites for a living, so I will check into that. It's a Wix site. It shouldn't have any problems.
Oh no, that's the problem.
Is it?
Yeah, my students build Wix websites, and it makes them
build
cry.
WordPress. I build WordPress sites like for a living for a while, but this one I was like, I don't want any trouble. I'll just put it up and it'll be fine.
They're all trouble. It's just like women, Manny. They're all trouble.
I know.
They're just like a man.
Wow.
All right.
Well, that portion of the evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Manny, for being on.
Hold it. What?
Shelf Watch. Shelf Watch is still shelving.
Shelf Watch is still shelving. Maybe one day there'll be a shelf. Real shelf. Sorry.
So, all right. Well, we'll be back next week to check on the shelf and to have Chaplain Dale on to wrap out Mental Health Month of May. And again, thank you everybody for being here live. And We'll see you on the next time.
Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I love that hat, by the way.
Oh, it's one of my favorite hats.
I love the whole tiki kind of.
Yeah, there's like little things going on, flowers.
It's pretty. Shut up, Charles. You don't know anything about sports ball.
Let's go, Knicks. Knicks in 5.
I have no teeth in this game, so we're good.
Just agree with me.
I do, absolutely.
We'll take it over.